me queda 1%. Y lo usaré solo para decirte lo mucho que lo siento. Que si me ven con otra en una disco solo es perdiendo el tiempo. Baby, ¿pa' qué te miento?
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Hopeful Romantic M.A.N podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really excited to have one of the most amazing people that I have on my show on a regular basis. She's back by popular demand. I love her opinion. I love her fresh takes. And today we have a really interesting topic, man. We have a lot to talk about. So I'm hoping that we get a lot of people that just ask questions. And if you want to just drop a comment, by all means, please do so. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to give a round of applause for my girl, Miss Illy. Miss Illy, how are you? How you doing? How's everything? I can't hear you. Let me see your voice. Check your microphone. Yeah, check your microphone. I don't know, something's up. But either way, we got a great show. There's a lot going on. We're going to be talking about a couple of different subjects, but they're all going to be surrounding what I consider the most important aspect of a relationship. And I'm sure you've heard about it, and I'm sure you've seen it on many of occasions all over the internet. It's a very cliche topic when you just cover it on the surface. If you just touch on it, it's very easy to say. And then I find that a lot of people are left in the wind wondering, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? I don't get this. Like, I don't understand what it is that means. And they don't get past that initial phrase. And the phrase is communication. Communication is the immune system that can fight off anything that ails a relationship. Anything. If you have the right amount and the proper communication, you should be able to fight off anything that comes towards your relationship by taking a proactive approach, not a reactive approach. Right? But again, what does that mean? You know, like, oh, we don't talk, we don't share, but we do talk. We talk all day. We talk too much. What does that mean, Mike? And then, you know, as you break it down, you realize obviously the different types of communication, right? How the communication evolves and it changes over time. And how in the end you have to look at each other and it's a completely different communication than you had when you were brand new with each other. You know what I mean? So I like to touch on that. Let me see, Ms. Illy, you there? No, we're having a bit of a technical. Go back out, come back in, check the mic on the see that it has you. But yeah, hold on a second. Let me see something. Give me a second, ladies and gentlemen. We're just trying to get over some technical difficulties. How about now? Do you hear? Can you talk? Yeah. Well, yeah, try to sign out and sign back in if you can. If you can't do that, then we'll figure something out. But right now, it's just not coming in. So it's just me for now. But don't worry, hopefully we get her back. Like I said, she's always has a refreshing point of view. It's always very unique. She's not somebody that's going to just rip something from a headline or a magazine and regurgitate it. She's going to give you something fresh off the top. So I really like dealing with her and working with her. So back at it. So we're talking about communication, man. And I'm always fascinated by how different people associate communication and what they think it is. Many people think communication is them making themselves clear. And then there's other people that are like, well, no, communication is how I receive it. If I didn't receive it, it's not communication because I don't understand. It's about two parties. Yeah, that's all the technical part of it. I agree. That's exactly, the definition of it or whatever. But let's go deeper. What does communication mean within a relationship? There's so many different areas that we can talk about. You know, let's we can start with finances and how it affects a couple. You know what I mean? The kind of communication you should have. Sex. We can talk about the very end of a relationship when the kids are gone. And we're going to touch on all that today. But I want to start in the very beginning. In the very beginning of a relationship, you start what I like to call direct communication. I said something, you received it. I asked you what your emotions were towards that situation. You replied with how you feel. You asked me how I felt. And the day went so far, so on and so forth. We were in constant contact with how each other felt. And that's the courting phase. That's the dating phase. That's when you get to know each other. That's that falling in love phase, when all that communication is directed at each other and you guys can talk to each other. And it's like, whatever I say, you receive. And I want to know what your emotions are, what you feel. But here's what happens. And I'm talking more so to the people, to older folks now. You know what I'm saying? Not the 20-year-olds. You know, it doesn't apply still, unless you already start full-fledged into your family with your kids. But this direct communication becomes indirect communication. What do I mean by that? So today, while we're young, while we're recording, I say something to you, you receive it, you send it back to me, I receive it, so on and so forth. As the relationship starts to evolve, life happens. Life happens, and it can be in the form of children. It can be in the form of, maybe you guys bought a house together. Whatever life-changing thing happens, that all of a sudden becomes a new form. It introduces a new form of communication. So, for instance, let's use children. Have you ever played the phone game when you were a kid? And you whisper in somebody's ear, blah, 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 blah. By the time it gets to the third person, the message is changed. The receiver is getting a completely different message. A lot of times, that's what starts to happen when you have children. All your communication starts to go through your children. Did we pick up? Did we do? Did we feed? What time? We have to be here. We have to be there. Did we do this? Did we do that? Did we pay? Right? Those aren't forms of direct communication. Those are indirect communication, because they're all relating to something else, not each other. So in other words, I'm bouncing it off of, let's say, the mortgage is due. I'm bouncing. My communication is at you, but it's about the mortgage, then to you. Did we go to the Little League game? It's about the baby going to Little League game, then to you. It's not, how are you feeling? How are you doing? What's going on with you today? Why are you sad? Why are you feeling emotional? It's not that type of communication. It's indirect. And because it's indirect, a lot of times people lose the message. They lose the communication. Right? So now you're asking me about the baseball game, you're asking me about the mortgage, you're asking me about this, you're asking me about that. You're essentially telling me, look, I'm worried about our day-to-day, our family. I love our family, so I need these answers for our family. I love us. Right? The person's not receiving it that way. They're receiving it as, all we do is talk about the mortgage and the kids and whatever. He never tells me he loves me. He never shares that with me. He never talks about me. And it gets very confusing. Because on one side, the guy's like, hey, man, this is how I love. This is what I'm doing. And on the other side, she's like, and the opposite is true. The opposite is true. Now, here's the deal. If you're lucky, late at night, right, you get maybe 20 minutes of pillow talk. If you've ever been in a relationship and you're about to lay down and you lay your head on that pillow and you're exhausted, and you have that little quick conversation about, and then you tell a little gossip here, a little something there, you're lucky you get about 20 minutes. You're very lucky you get about 20 minutes. Now, here's the deal. For men, that 20 minutes is that's enough. That's fine. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I always say that for a woman, I've realized through my research, through my study, that for a woman, communication equals love. Not because she needs answers, not because she's not as smart as you, because she likes to communicate to the man that she loves. She likes to share. She likes to let him know what's happening in her mind. She wants to know what his thoughts are. She likes to open up to him. Right? So if that's the case, that 20 minutes is not enough. That 20 minutes is she's starving for direct communication, and that overnight time, that 20 minutes is like a tease, it's like a snack, and she's starving for communication from you. So then you start to watch a relationship from the outside, and you notice how people start to grow apart, and you're wondering, but they're such a good team. Why are they growing apart? They're such a good team. You know what I mean? They function on a very high level when it comes to the kids. They function on a very high level when it comes to their business savvy. They function on a very high level on a lot of different areas in their life. Why are they growing apart? And as you start to zoom in, you start to realize the communication isn't there. But they talk every day. He knows where she is. She knows. No. The direct communication has fallen off. He no longer is giving her the amount of communication that she needs, that she craves. That 20 minutes isn't cutting it. So what ends up happening is that 20 minutes doesn't cut it. Right? So she's not getting her need met. She's not getting her need met. She doesn't feel close to you. If she doesn't feel close to you, that means there's a lack of intimacy. If there's a lack of intimacy, brother, you're not getting sex. And if you do get sex, you're getting some forced bullshit. And it's not fulfilling to you. So we could derive that a lack of communication creates a cycle of needs that won't get met. Your desire to speak, to share intimacy, and his desire for sex, closeness, appreciation, because that's what we feel. We feel appreciated when we get sex. It's an incomplete circle. It's not. It's a circle of needs, that aren't being met. And it's no wonder that you start to grow apart. That's the baseline. Aside from infidelity, aside from things that may occur that using the outside world, we're talking about a relationship from the inside out. These things affect you. And that lack of communication is a destroyer. It's a cancer. Communication is the immune system that can fight off anything that ails your relationship. Do not take it for granted. The couples that are successful are the couples that have separated something that makes their relationship unique. I always tell this story, and I absolutely love this story. When I was writing my book, I interviewed a couple that was married, I believe it was 35 years, at my neighbors. She's an extrovert. She talks to everyone. He's an introvert. Doesn't talk to anyone but me. He's my neighbor. She's out front doing the lawn, and he's kind of like helping her with whatever he can. And she's a butterfly talking to everybody that passes by. And he's really ends up doing all the work because she's talking to everybody. So I walk up to him, and as usual, when I was doing my interviews, I was just like, "Hey, can I ask you a question? Can you tell me what's the secret to being married so long? To a long, successful marriage, because it's obvious that you still love each other." Because I know that because they're 70 something years old. She's bent over like doing the roses, and he walks back and he smacks her on the butt, and I find it adorable. And they look and giggle at each other. You're so silly. Oh my God. And I find it adorable. And he pulls me to the side. He goes, "Mike, he started to give me the very like cliche answers, like, religion, we come together, this, that. And then he said one thing that I wanted him to elaborate on. He said, "She makes me laugh." And I was like, what? He goes, Mike, she's always been the funniest person in the room to me. She makes me crack up. He's a millionaire. Before I made my millions, I we used to go to New York with a drink, and we would people watch, and we would laugh, and she would make me laugh. And then we got married. The laughter never went away. We would sometimes we'd laugh at our kids, and we'd always have a joke. And they were like, "Oh, you're always joking on us. You're always cracking on us." And we kept that at the center. It was always at the center. Comedy, laughter. We never watched horror movies together. We always watched comedies. And then when we got to about our 50, 60, I forgot how old they were. When they got to a certain age, they decided that they were going to start renting a Winnebago. They would rent a Winnebago, and they would go to the Montreal Comedy Festival. And he was like, Mike, we've been doing that for the last 20 years, just me and her. No kids, no grandkids, just me and her. We go up there and we laugh our ass off and we have a blast. And that's our getaway. And that's what we do. And after talking to him, but what he was telling me was we found something unique, right? Something unique to our relationship. And what we did was we built a life around it. And we knew no matter how things got tough, things got rough, we always circled back to the laughter, and we always had Montreal. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, and there were times where we went into our little vacation where we were kind of tight and things were upsetting or something had happened, And when we got on our trip, it was a promise to each other that it would be laughs. Like let's leave whatever's stressing us behind, and all we did was talk about how she felt, about how I felt. We left the kids behind in every sense of the word, especially when they got older. As they got older, we really just left them behind in every sense of the word, and we enjoyed each other. And we made sure that we liked each other. Love was always there. Love, I was always going to work hard for her. I was always going to struggle. I was going to do whatever it took for her and the family to be fine. So that always functioned at a very high level. He said, but I wanted to make sure that we always liked each other. And the way I guaranteed that we liked each other was we went back to center. Center was our laughter. Center was our trip, our getaway, and we just straight. She got to see me out of that work environment. I got to see her out of the the mom mode, and I got to reconnect with the woman in her, and I got to talk to her. We did that every year, and that, Mike, is I think the secret for us being together, because we learned that we always have Montreal. The way he said it was very poetic. We always have Montreal, and I'll always revert back to who she is. You know what I mean? When we're not under stress, I know her. When we're not under stress, I know when the times are good. I know what she is and who she is, and I don't like anyone more than I like her. I thought it was beautiful. I was like, wow, man, that's really romantic. That's sweet. And for a man that's so quiet, so few words, it was very poignant the way he said that, the way he kind of came across. I was really I loved it, and I took it with me, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna put that example in my book, only because I think it's just so beautiful. And he talked about, and it was all about communication. It was all about communication. Again, she needs a certain level of communication. That's why I always say, so for a woman, communication equals love. And I say that for a man, vulnerability equals love. All right? Vulnerability equals love, meaning only one woman gets to see the real me. I could be with 100 women, but there's only one that sees the real me. You know what I mean? The one that really gets to know me, one that allows me to take the mask off, the one that I share my darkness with, the one that really gets to know. And the problem with that is, because vulnerability is my love, the way I love you, and communication is the way you love me, it's obviously there's disparity there. So you'll have a situation where a woman wants you to talk more, and she wants you to share. But tell me. I don't know. And you'll get a lot of that. I get a lot of that. I get a lot of that. He doesn't talk. He doesn't share. He doesn't tell me. And I have to kind of look at them, and I'm like, he's not. That's not how he shows love. See, a lot of women, what they'll mistake when I ask them, right? Women that are dating, when I asked them, you got to find a guy that's going to be vulnerable with you. The first thing they say, no, but he told me about his grandmother and how he had a really rough childhood and da da da. Da. I'm like, oh, he told you that. Yeah, sign number one that's not his vulnerability. No, 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 no. A woman discovers a man's vulnerability, sees it, and then says, it's cool, it's safe with me, I can love you from there. But does it love my darkness? My light is easy to love. She sees his darkness and she says, I can love you from there. Give me more. I'll never use it against you. I'll never call you weak because you gave it to me. Then he gives her more. And before you know it, he's given her all he's got. And he's like, yo, I love this woman. I feel safe with her. She is my peace. That's how that works. Right? So if a lot of times if a guy's overly communicative and telling you everything and yeah, da 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 da, there's a good chance he's full of shit. He's just really giving you surface level stuff. No matter how deep it sounds, my grandma and my daughter and my my this and this person died. They're only giving you what they're willing to give you. There's a layer below that you have to discover, that you have to watch. I always tell women, look, there's only one question that you need the answer to. One, to be happy. If you want to be happy with a man. Does this man love himself? That's it. That's it. Does this man love himself? And one of the ways that you can start to discover who he is by really paying attention and seeing if he's truly being vulnerable with you. Or if he's just giving you just enough to keep you thinking he is. It's just a couple of things. It's not anything crazy. I want to talk about when it comes to finances, communication. Obviously, this is a conversation that needs to be had early if you want to have a future with someone. I need to know what your spending habits are. I need to know that how you react to money. See, there's people that come from a position of need where they were growing up, where they lacked. So when they do get it, it's very important to them that there's a nest egg. It's very important that they feel secure, that things are in place, right? And they need that. They need that to feel happy. It's not the money that makes them happy. It's the security. It's the fact that everything is in place. And in case of an emergency, I'm not going to be that kid with the hole in his sneakers. I'm not going to be that person that electricity went out. I have to be able to look around and say, okay, that's taken care of. And if you're going to come into my life, I don't need you being nonchalant about something that stresses me out. So believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy to some people, but two people that stress over money make a much, much better couple than somebody who stresses over money and somebody who's very aloof when it comes to money. Somebody who's very aloof when it comes to money basically is telling you, we'll be all right. We'll figure it out. Or I bought this and we're at the edge of our budget. It's really important that two people get on the same page and they understand what they need. I always say this, look, the only man that complains about the standard is the man that cannot meet the standard. Lay your standards out, ladies. Lay your standard out. This is what I need. I've been on many occasions a man who couldn't meet the standard. So I'm giving you advice that sometimes has been detrimental to me. But I'm going to be honest with you. I need you to lay it out there. Let me try this. Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hey, there we go. We got her back on. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Mrs. Illy is in the house. Ms. Illy, today's conversation is surrounding communication. And I've touched on, it being the immune system. I've talked about how so far how for a woman communication really is important. It's love. It's like I need to be able to share my day, what's going on with you, and talk to you. And sometimes when a couple gets to a certain point and they get too busy, the only thing a woman will get is like 20 minutes at the end of the day, that little pillow talk. And how sometimes it's not enough because it's just not. It creates a cycle of needs that aren't being met because if she's not getting communication, she's not feeling heard. There's a lack of intimacy. A lack of intimacy creates problems in the bedroom. Problems in the bedroom create frustration in the man. Things like that. But I wanted to go into where I'm now creeping into the subject of finances, and I say it's hugely important to have the conversation early. What has been your experience when dealing with a partner and finances? What's important to you as a woman to know um, that your partner has in mind? What is their, like, when you look at your partner? What's their strategy that you need to know that they're thinking like you?
You want to know that they're planning for the future to some degree. At this point in life, nobody needs the YOLO mindset. And I think it's just important for me just to know what their mentality is around finances and how they should be divided in the household because, sometimes it's not a match. And, you need to
Talk
know
about that. Talk about that. No, talk about that. What have you seen, or what do you know when it's not a match? How frustrating is that?
I mean, I've been in a situation where it's not, well, it just wasn't financially yoked. So that always is frustrating. I think for most women, obviously, we'd like our partner to at least be on our level, if not better. You have that. Then there's the aspect of like what the bill split is. Some women are like, I'm not going 50-50 with you. Others don't mind, and if breadwinner, maybe I'm going to bend a little bit with that. So, I don't think there's any like steadfast rule that should go, but you definitely have to have that conversation early, like you said. I think, well, not right too early, because you don't want to jump the
When you
gun.
commit, I think
But
when you start to commit to each other,
I was gonna say, once it's serious, yeah.
yeah, when you commit to each other and you're like, all right, we're going to try to make this work. I think it's really important to have that conversation because, like I said, I was just saying how for a person that is, let's say, like I grew up lacking, I grew up without, you know what I mean? So to me, it's so important to have things in place. It means security. It means I'm
Okay.
not gonna be an adult walking around with a hole in my sneakers. You know what I'm saying? Like, bringing me back to when I was a kid. That's what it means to me. So it's like I gotta be a certain type of dude, like with things in place. I'm not just gonna go and blow money at the casino. You know what I mean? And the most frustrating thing is when you're with that type of person. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially, like I get this question a lot. A woman, let's say she'll make a lot of money, and the man doesn't make that much money, right? And the man starts to get frustrated because he's paying a lot in bills, whatever, according to him, but she is also going out and buying bags and buying whatever she wants, right? So he starts to get frustrated. He's like, yo, whatever. So now that's an important conversation to have, right? Because she needs to let him know, hey, listen, oh, no, no, no. You got to understand that because we're 50-50, once my 50 is occupied, I could do whatever I want with the rest. And if you can't come up with your 50, it's not my job to cover your 50%. Because that's how I think a lot of guys get frustrated. They're like, you're out there, blazing money, and I can't come up with just enough. I'm over here struggling to come up with just enough.
Step it
And
up
I'm like,
then. For
yeah, I'm like,
real.
hey, guy, that wasn't the deal. You have to have that conversation. And a lot of it has to do with your ego. A lot of it has to do with humbling yourself. I saw, let me see what you think about this. I saw 50 Cent, right? And he's not like my go-to guy for relationships or anything, but I thought it was really interesting what he said. I saw him on some clip on YouTube, and he said that he never understood why he's learned to understand why his grandfather would come home every day and just give his grandmother the check. And he would give her the check, and grandma would take the check, and she knew every dollar that would come in the house, and he just gave it to her, and he would walk away. And one day he asked Grandpa, why you just give her the check? How come you don't have your own money to pay the bill? He goes, listen, if I give her the check, she knows exactly what's coming into the house. And if she's the one doing the math and dividing and fixing and paying, then she knows exactly why she can't get a pair of red bottoms, and she just has to get a regular pair of heels.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And if she wants the red bottoms, now she understands how she has to budget for what she wants. You know what
makes
I mean?
sense.
As opposed to me cracking my head holding the money because now she thinks I'm holding out.
Right.
Now she thinks I'm just not doing it because I don't want to make her happy. So I'm holding the money out. And the truth is that's not what it is. I just want her to know, hey, listen, you are my priority. Here's everything. And now whatever you feel is a priority, that's how we spend it. You know what I mean? I thought it was interesting. And it's funny because when I was married, that's what I used to do back in the day. And I thought it was because I was lazy and I didn't want to have to pay the bills on my own. But the truth was, I realized that.
But that's a lot of trust too, that you have to put into your partner to do the right thing. And
here's the deal when it comes to men. We're fairly simple. So if the cable is on, think if you ever been to a man cave, a guy's house. A guy's house is a huge TV,
you got lights, cable, water, you good to go.
Right? You got all the cable channels. You know what I'm saying? Some good food, like some pizza, shit in the refrigerator, right? And he's chill, he's happy, right? I don't think it takes that much to make a man happy. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're with your girl and you trust her, right? And I'll bring it back to myself. When I was married for 10 years. When I was married, and I got married really early in my life when I was in my early 20s. And when I got married, I used to give her the entire check. And it was more like I trusted her with everything. I trusted her with
it should be, if you think about it, because like as a woman to decide to not work, especially if I'm not working. So if I decide to stay home and not work, I am putting total faith in you to care for me until my final days, and so to bring me your check, that's a small thing.
No, here's the deal. I'm going to say this though. I'm going to put this because you said didn't work. She worked, and I gave her the check. And the thing is this: I didn't know how much she made, but she knew exactly how much I made. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing: the crazy part was that I'll never forget this. I used to laugh because she would give me like $100 allowance a week. Like I'd have $100 in my pocket. And it was really for nothing. I didn't spend it because she cooked and I cooked, and it was like that. We get home, there was always food. So I have and I remember specifically, I would give her my check, I'd get 100, and I'd piece a couple $100 together every couple of weeks, months, and it was always for a gift for her. It was always a gift for her. Trust me, I'm a tough act to follow, yo. I know that. I hope she doesn't listen, but I'm a tough act to follow, yo. So I used to buy her a gift, and it was like, I laugh because I'm like, yeah, man, that makes I always say this, and maybe you could agree with me. If you give a woman $1 million, right? If I gave you, me and you, if I gave you $1 million, there's a good chance that like the majority of that money is gonna go to you, your kids, your household, right? And taking care of everything that needs to be done so that they're good. New bedroom set, new clothes, like you trickle down to your family. Right? This is how men operate, and I know I'm gonna get some shit for this. We get $1 million, right? We buy shit as needed for the kids, and then we start to think of an investment, like a place to do with the money, like to make it bigger, to make it more, like to go. You know what I mean? There's a difference almost in how that. Not to say that women don't do that, but I'm talking about like that initial burst. Yeah, that initial burst is more so. How do I bring it inward to my family? Where with us is more so like, how do I make this more like outward? Like you start looking outward. You know what I mean? And the truth is that when it comes to finances in a house, I was trolling somebody the other day. This is fucked up, man. I was trolling on one of those relationship sites. Mm-hmm. And I had actually, it's not an original meme. I saw the meme and I thought it was so funny that I used it to troll somebody. The person goes, she was one of those women that's like, oh, I don't want to work. I need to stay home. I don't want to do nothing. I need a man to take care of me, blah, 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 blah. So I go into her comments and I'm like, cool, no problem. But can I beat your ass and body slam you a couple times a week and cheat on you like your grandfather used to? Because that's what she said. Like my grandpa used to, whatever. So I go in, I like, cool, can I beat your ass and cheat on you like your grandpa used to cheat on your grandmother?
That's
and
horrible.
She's like, oh, no. Listen, we're gonna do it together. But I got a good friend. I have a friend that walked into that type of situation, right? Where she met a man and he completely swept off her feet and he said, I'm gonna take care of everything. Yo, I got you. You don't have to do shit. And let me tell you something. She's always been one of the women that was like, I just need a guy to come into my life and tell me, like, just relax. You don't got to work no more. Da da da. So I thought she was like a picking shit. I thought she was gonna be happy. It was good. A couple months later, 4 months later, she calls me up. Yo, I fucking hate this. I gotta ask for an allowance. I can't go buy a bag. I can't go this. Every time I want to go out with a friend, I gotta ask him for some change, for some money. You know what I mean? And he's questioning me. And when he doesn't want me to go out, he starts to play games where no, I don't have it. Or I'll get it to you. Oh, baby, I gotta go to the bank. And he starts to play these games with her. And she's frustrated and pissed with what she thought initially was she was gonna have her independence and have a man pay every bill and take care of everything. And the truth is, look, man, if you go back and you want to talk about grandparents and grandma and mom and dad, how much freedom did mom and dad really have? Did mom really have to just do whatever the hell she wanted? She had whatever she wanted within the house. Within the house, she ran that house, right? But as far as being able to get up and go to the club, to the bar, just go hang out with her girls' night, that shit wasn't happening. Why are we lying to ourselves? That wasn't happening. So like there's a level of independence that you have to give up when you live that lifestyle. And I realized that when you choose now here's the thing. I'm a proponent of, and I wrote this in my book, I'm a proponent of, as a man, the lion's share. And if you're with a woman that makes a lot of money, my man, be prepared to drive Uber, be prepared to do whatever it takes to make your family happy. Go the extra mile. Here's what I found. Illy, check this out. What I found was when you approach a woman that really loves you, right? Mind you, you're working 40 hours, she's working 40 hours, she makes more money. When you approach a woman that really loves you, you're like, yo, look, babe, I understand that this is what's going on. I'm going to go work these extra hours, da. If she really loves you, she'd rather have you in the house with her than have you going those extra 40 hours and the couple of dollars that you could bring in are not as important as your presence. They're not as important as having you there with her. And she's willing to make sacrifices for you. And she's willing to say, okay, look, well, let's restructure the budget. Let's do that. I'll take care of this. You know what I mean? Very few. And this is not just one or two couples that I interviewed. This is over a span of couples that were like, yeah, no. And I was like, so what would you do? And a lot of them were like, so, because the question was 40 hours, and then he has to go do another 25, 30, driving Uber or Lyft or whatever. And think about that. That's a 70-hour work week.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not getting communication. You're not getting dinner with him. You're not being able to. The kids have to go here. You're not going with them with the kids anywhere. You guys aren't going to the movie night. There's nothing, as a family. So they recognized that. As soon as I said it, they recognized that right away, and they were like, "Oh no."
Yeah, no.
We'll work something out. I want him here. As opposed to, if she's frustrated because she doesn't think he's doing enough and she has to go to him. When she has to go to him, what she's really going to him about is, how do you not see what I see? How do you not see that our family's struggling? How come you're not worried like I'm worried? You know what I'm saying? That's why I tell men, take a proactive approach. Go to her first. You'll be surprised the answer that you get. You know what I'm saying? A lot of guys are like, no, man, no, go to her. Be like, hey, look, baby, I'm going to take on this extra job for a couple hours, this many. A lot of times she's like, nah, man, maybe for a little while, maybe for Christmas, maybe for like a holiday, do that. You know what I mean? But for the most part, they'd rather have your presence if they really love you. You know what I mean? But I also...
That's within reason now. I don't know. I just feel like...
Yeah, let me know. Tell me.
We got to do better, and I think that's what it is. Because if it's to the point where Uber or some other little side hustle is the plan for extra money, yeah, I'd rather have you home, but let's sit home and figure out how we can make our money grow better. Because you sitting next to me and we struggling is not really... I'm a Capricorn, so maybe I look at things a little different, but that's all fine and dandy. But we got bills to pay and trips to take, and not on some extravagant, luxurious shit. But for me personally, I can't speak for all women. Yes, I would. I don't want my man necessarily out there especially if I'm making more. If I have it and I can cover the difference, yes, I'd rather him home. But if it's a mutual struggle, I feel like we got to start figuring.
No. If it's a mutual struggle, yes,
level up.
you're absolutely right.
and what's the next.
You're absolutely
Women
right.
will get frustrated with that regardless. I think at the end of the day, you can say what you want to say, but most women will be frustrated if they are, like you said, handling the lion's share of the responsibility in the household. And even I think there's even ways around that. Like even if you're not financially handling the lion's share, if as the woman I'm the breadwinner, all I have to do is pay bills and you handle everything else, something breaks, you're handling it, you're managing all of that, then that counts for something. But what happens a lot of times too is that the woman ends up calling the vendors, calling the AC repair guy, doing all of this, plus I'm making all the money and paying half the bills, and no.
Yeah, it's a matter of being overwhelmed. I get that part. I get that part about being overwhelmed. You know what I'm saying? I also like to paint this picture. I always feel like if money's at the center of your relationship, you've already lost. This has to be a conversation where we understand that what makes our family better is the number one priority, right? That's number one. It's like I always say, each relationship is like a fingerprint or a snowflake. No two are alike. What happens within your four walls is appropriate as long as you two agree, as long as you have the same, you have a conversation. And I always refer to some friends that, where the wife makes shitload of money. Shitload. I'm talking about like a couple 100,000, couple 100,000, not like just like 100, 200, couple 100,000. And he makes a good living, solid living, but not as much as she does. But when you look at their life and you break down the contribution, her 500,000 to his 150, and when you break down the actual contribution to the household, you're like, oh shit, his 150 goes a long way, goes a lot farther because he has magic in his hands. His magic in his hands where he made the house a home, and he literally grabbed and he built and he saved them and he took and he fixed, and he drives a cheap truck that he fixes every day. You know what I mean? People don't account for that. Yo, look, you drive a Benz, but I got this truck that I'm fixing to make sure that it runs so we don't have an extra car note. You know what I mean? There's ways to account for that money in between.
There's other things that give value besides just the money. And I think that most women will acknowledge that if they care for their partner. It just comes, I think, when there's an imbalance in that, or again, if we're in struggle mode, because like again, this couple that you're talking about, 500 to 150, like y'all straight regardless, versus my 40 to your 25, now it's a different conversation. And now I think the conversation, no matter what the split is, as a woman, you're gonna want your partner to be on some level up mindset. So
that's what I think the most important.
Like, you just hit it. That Uber money,
You just hit it. It's that mindset. I think that's above all else is what frustrates women with certain men. It's the mindset. It's if I see that we're struggling, if I see that we're missing, why don't you see that? Like, how come your sense of urgency isn't what mine is? And I think that's what really elevates. It creates the arguments, it creates the fights. Because if he looks at you and, like I said, comes to you preemptively and says, yo, I see this coming around the corner, I'm going to do this. Now you're at ease. Like, all right, well, fuck, I'm stressed out, but I see that he has a plan. And that's where that submissive stuff comes, because now you could trust him that he has a plan. Because I don't like using the word submissive. I like to use the word trust. I trust that he's going to lead me in the right direction. I trust that he's going to do the right things. I trust that I can believe his word. You know what I mean? And that's that communication that's so important. I want to move on because I want to talk about the overall topic is communication, but I also want to talk about it when it comes to sex. What are some of the conversations, right? And I know it doesn't really come in the form of a conversation, but it is communication that you have with your partner as far as sex is concerned, right? What are some of the questions you need answered when it comes to sex? Is it like, I need it regularly, quantity over quality, I need intimacy, I need this? What are you trying to communicate to your partner when it comes to sex? Like, I want it all.
Like in the beginning, like what do you say? Like what your preferences are? Or what do you?
Yeah, like so. I have this thing like I think that people in the beginning you're still close. Like you get people's representative, right? So like in the beginning you may get a woman that's hypersexual, right? And all it really is to kind of get you like, oh my God, I'm turned out by this woman, and then it's like, and then the sex got her, and then the sex tapers off. You feel me? And it's like I think sex drive is an important conversation, not necessarily to have, but like to really understand that, communicate that like I am more laid back, you're more hyper. I need, you like people that initiate. You know what I mean? These are all conversations that need to be had because they create issues down the line. You know what I mean? And when it like so the whole episode is about communication and how it bleeds into all aspects of the relationship and how it's so important to have these conversations and communicate your feelings and what you want and what you need. You know what I mean? So like when it comes to sex, it's important to let him know like, hey, look, man, I need it often. As a man, like if you really, it's important to let you like, look, I need it often. Can we compromise? You know what I'm saying? I'm a big believer in compromise when it comes to that. Like, yo, I need it 5 days a week. Oh, 5 days a week. That's too
I'm
much.
gonna be honest. I think that sexual compatibility is one of the few areas where compromise that can only work for so long, right?
Well,
Because
I'll give you an example. You tell me.
if I'm hypersexual and I need it every single day, and you're good 2-3 times a week, right? Okay, we'll meet somewhere in the middle at 4. That might work for a while, but at some point I'm going to want 5, 6, and 7, or at some point 1 or 2 is going to be, more than enough for you. And so I just think that's not really
No. So my
sustainable.
question is like, yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. But my compromise, you see, my compromise isn't even that. I'm like, I want it 5 days a week. Okay, how about this? My the girl comes to me, she's like, 5 days a week. That's a lot. I'm like, all right, how about this? 3 days a week you get to come. 2 days 2 days a week I just get mine off and we
In and out. And
we move on.
if she's cool with that and she doesn't mind, then by all means.
Nah, okay, all jokes aside, I think that when it comes to sex, the communication really very rarely do you have the communication actually about the sex. It's more so about creating intimacy. You know what I mean? I think that that's where the real communication is. The real communication is making you feel heard, secure, allowing you to free your mind, right? And really be in a space where sex is even an option. You know what I mean? Like I said, sex is always better when the bills are paid. You know what I'm saying? You're stressed out because the bills. You're not. Remember I gave you the example the one time. If my car breaks down outside,
right.
And you go out there, and I come back in, and you look at me, hey babe, you want to hook up? Oh yeah, sure. But if your car breaks down outside and you walk in, and I go, hey babe, you want to mess around? You can be like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Right.
It's a difference.
I just tell you.
Yeah. What? Are you stupid? Right. So there's a difference. And I think that through communication, through talking to each other, through really sharing, intimacy is really important, man. That I think guys, we often we mistake quantity for quality. You know what I mean? Like we're more concerned with quantity.
Mm-hmm.
How many times we do it, and we're not really keeping track of how fulfilling it is emotionally and mentally for the woman. We're thinking like she's thinking. We're thinking she thinks like we do, where it's physical, like it's just a physical. Oh, she felt good. She was moaning. She was doing things. She dropping like it's hot. It was all good. In reality, she's still coming up kind of empty. You know what I mean? Because the intimacy is not attached to it, or the intimacy is not attached to it. And the quality of the sex is not what she requires. You know what I mean? I think that's all part of communication, where you have to let your mate know, hey, listen, putting it in the hole is not cutting it. You know what I'm saying? Like I need you. I always say it's like grocery shopping. Intimacy is like grocery shopping. You go grocery shopping. Not everything you buy is meant for that night to cook. You know what I mean? So not all intimacy is meant for that night to have sex. A lot of it is stored away and pulled and it's for a later date. So I bought you flowers. I'm not buying you flowers to have sex tonight. I'm buying you flowers so you remember, yo, my husband's romantic. My man is romantic. And I'm storing credit.
And it doesn't even have to be stuff like that. So I think going back to that whole love language conversation, like for me, like go put some gas in my car. Like
yes.
Like,
That's a
I'm
service.
all different, So I think it's really important to know your partner's love language. And I think as a result, you will have your love languages fulfilled, you know, especially when it comes to men. I think y'all are always more physical, the words of affirmation, where women, yeah, like we need things. Either you're going to buy me stuff or you're going to do stuff for me. Those are the things that get the furnace flowing. And then with regards to the specifics, I think that communication comes in, but that's like specific communication. Like that's not just, you know, hey, bring me flowers and that translates into sex later. It's really like, you know, when you did that thing the other day, I hated that. Like, don't ever do that again, or you know, vice versa. So, and those are the tough conversations I think to have. A lot of times, you know, as intimate as intimacy is, I think people sometimes shy away from like the critiques and the guiding, and then
you know where I especially see that when it comes to fantasies. When it comes to fantasies, how people that are together and they're supposed to, like, you're my everything. We're you know, we're in, and all of a sudden you can't relay a fantasy, or men. I get that a lot from men. Like when we talk, we have conversations. It'll be like, she won't do, she doesn't do, she doesn't whatever. And I'm always like astonished about how they try to introduce that particular situation. The communication is lacking on what they're trying to do. You know what I mean? So I've developed like a little technique where I used to teach, and when I was in the gym teaching gym, what do you call it? I remember there would be a sport, right? And the day the sport was introduced, the first day was the rules, and the second and third day were a bunch of drills. And then on the fourth day, we actually played the game for like a couple of days, right? And so when I have a conversation with men about introducing their fantasies, I try to tell them, look, man, you got to introduce it like you would introduce a sport in gym class. You know, first, the rules and the guidelines, you know what I'm saying? Understanding that, you know, because at the end of the day, I didn't teach it that way for the kids that already know how to play. I taught it for the kids that wanted to learn and have fun during the game. Because now they could participate. Now they could have fun. It's not one-sided where they're getting the ball hitting the head, or, you know, home runs hitting off them, and they're like, it sucks. I'm getting blown out, getting killed. As a matter of fact, no. So what you do is you get them involved early and you show them the rules. You show them a couple of different techniques, so that when it's time to really play and engage in the fantasy, they're all in. But here's the thing. Be prepared to also be the student, because there's shit that your girl and your lady has not told you that she wants. And maybe you're not an expert in that area. You know what I mean? So also be prepared to be the student.
And then also be prepared, like, again, this is my first time playing, right? So I'm gonna probably get hit upside the head a couple times with the ball. I might drop the ball a few times. And so you have to have patience with that, because I've, you know, had conversations with friends where that's the experience. And it's like, okay, we've had the conversation, we're gonna go through with it, you know, but it wasn't quite what, you know, you was expecting.
Right. And that's in those situations, especially is because, like, I don't feel like a fantasy that somebody's never played in should be done that same night. That's exactly patience is the most important thing. It's not something that happens that same night. It's literally like, take your time. What are the rules? What's my safe word? Like, yo, how do you know, how do I convey that you need to back off? How do I, whatever, like these conversations early, like, yo, because I'm down, but I want to know that I could trust you. You know what I'm saying? And little by little. And then it's showing them with little techniques and little things how it's pleasurable, because that's what the techniques are. The techniques and the different drills are to teach them, does this feel good? Oh, that feels good. Okay. How about, no, that doesn't feel so good. How about this? That feels okay. That's good. And it's like a methodical way of finding out what buttons to press. So when it's time to play the game, you're only pressing the buttons that feel good, because you want this to be a mutually beneficial experience. You know what I mean? And if you could do that, then and only then do you get your fantasy fulfilled, because now she can trust you. You know what I'm saying? It's not like that guy that requests anal and he just wham, and the girl's eyes pop out like Roger Rabbit. Ah, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, you don't do that shit, bro. Then you're coming to me complaining, my wife won't do. Bro, nobody. You can't even get that shit in jail. Hell no, nobody's doing that. You know what I'm saying? It's like introduce it slowly. What's the rush? Yo, do this, do that. If you touch all the right buttons, and most importantly, you've tapped into her mind. Tap into her mind. Tap into her mind slowly. Yo, create the intimacy, create the app, the platform. Allow her to clear her mind, that clutter that she has that's filled with the pickup, the day, the mortgage, the this, that. Clear that so that all she has to do is concentrate on what you guys are doing here and now. You know what I mean? Those are one of the things. One of the last things I wanted to touch on, though, when it comes to communication, is when at the very end. So I talked about the beginning communications, communication during sex, finances. There's a communication that happens at the end of a relationship. Not necessarily at the end of a relationship, but let's say when your kids are growing and out of the house.
Oh, okay.
How often have you heard? We grew apart. The kids are gone. We're leaving. That's it. We're gonna break up. The kids are gone now. We don't have to stay married. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we were together for the kids. Now they're grown. We're gonna go our own way, and people grow apart. Right? It goes back to a story I told about the man and woman, about how they found something that, about their marriage. They found something about their love, and something that was unique about their love, and they created a life around it. I told that story earlier in the podcast, and I feel like in the end, you remember that he was a father, you remember that he was a husband, and you may have functioned at a very high level financially together. He may have functioned very high level as parents together. The reason a lot of people break up is because the man in him stopped talking to the woman in her. And he remembers she's a mom and a wife, but forgot she was a woman. And they stopped communicating. And then there comes a point, and this is not my thought, this is the old couple. When their kids were gone, they had to look at each other and say, do we still like each other? Not love. We proved that we love each other. We stayed all these years. Do we still like each other? And they have to look, and now they're 65, whatever. They're looking at, do we like, yeah, I like her. I like her. She still makes me laugh. Or I like her. She's still, that's my girl. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna last. We're gonna go through. It's the couples that don't like each other at the very end. And why do they stop liking each other? Because they stopped the direct communication a long time ago. All their communication was about the house, the mortgage, the kids. Yeah, their friendship ended way before the marriage ended. That's a good way to put it. The friendship ended way before the marriage ended. You know what I mean? If you can still look at them and say, "Nah, we're friends. That's my." That's the only way.
Yeah, you have to nurture friendships, just like any a romantic friendship versus, me and another friend. If I don't spend time with you as a friend, and this is even outside of the romance, like, can I sit and talk to you about some stupid shit I saw on Instagram for 5 minutes without it being like, okay, we don't have time for that. There's more important things to talk about. Can we have those moments that keep us connected in a silly and a light way versus, the deep romance or the, deep responsibility of life and partnership, because that's what it is. Like, once you're old, right? Hopefully you've done everything right. You've got your investment, you've got your retirement accounts, your kids are off to college, their school is paid for. You're not working towards anything. Now it's time to chill. And yeah, if I don't like you, if I haven't gotten to know you, because the you that you are today is not the same you from 20 years ago. So
No,
back then,
no.
But can we still vibe in the same way now?
Well, I always say, right, to the point you just made, you got to love your partner like you love your kids, right? I don't love my daughter at 5 years old the same way I love her at 16. I still love her. I still adore her. She's my favorite person on earth. But I love her at each phase that she's in her life. And my love evolves to grow with her. You know what I mean? And I feel like when you have a partner over all those years, if you make it that long, it's because, and you're able to be together in the end, it's because you managed to love that person throughout their fucking grumpy phase, their adventurous phase, their financially secure phase, their, the golden age. Like, you're able to evolve your love to be with them. You know what I mean? And at the end, look at them and say, that's what COVID did, man. COVID relationships are a real thing. They made people look at each other and spend so much time together. They're like, I don't fucking like you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yo, you know what? We got to get together this much. It was cool when I saw you an hour a day or 2 hours at the end of the day. And now I'm stuck with you all day. You want? Hell no. This shit is over. You know what I mean? And they're out of there. And that's a lot to do with it. You see, I always say that to be married, you don't have to love someone. You have to create a partnership. You have to create a situation that is for growth. There's a lot more things than love, in a marriage. Or love is important, but there's a lot more things than love.
So facts.
Right?
Yeah.
It's when you get to the end, right? When the kids are gone and there's no real attachment, responsibility to each other. That's when you look at each other and you go, now love is what we have to lean on. Now love is what we have to lean on. Because now I want to be here. Now there's nothing keeping me here other than you and me. Other than when I go to Paris and I see the fucking Eiffel Tower, I want to look to the left and see that you're there looking at it with me. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So,
Agreed.
Well,
Agreed.
I do want to cover one last thing, and I want to hear your opinion because I think your opinion is going to agree with me. All right, so here we go. We're going to go to the inbox, to my inbox, okay? And my inbox says, "Dear Dropping Dimes, dear Dropping Dimes, my boyfriend hates my dog. I can admit my dog is spoiled. He definitely needs some discipline. I've noticed my dog avoids him and hides when he's around. I love my boyfriend. I would hate to have to choose between my man and my dog. Would love to hear your thoughts." I'm like, that motherfucker got to go. That motherfucker got to go. Hell no, man. You talking about? No. Well, this is what I wrote in reply, and I would like to hear what your thoughts are. Okay. So let's preface this by saying I love dogs. I believe dogs can sense energy. If your dog is negatively reacting, it's one of two things. Once your dog senses the negative energy and he just stays away. Two, your boyfriend is abusing your dog. Either way, he doesn't seem like a nice guy. Look, when someone cares about you, they care about what you care about. Even if it's not a fan of your dog, he will do his best to make it work to keep you happy. On your end, if you know your dog has an issue, do your part to fix the situation. Compromise by training your dog. But you got to go.
I think the answer is very politically correct. And I agree with it. But just like an annoying ass kid, like an annoying ass dog, like get that shit in check. Because if you can't get it in check, it's going to be a deal breaker for me. Because dogs can live long. They can, you talk, and I adore it. I'm like Elmira from Tiny Toons. Like I love
Tiny Toons, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I love animals.
I'm gonna love you and squeeze you and hold you.
Right, all of that. So like there's very few pets somebody that could have that would turn me off. But I say that to say that I know how annoying animals can be. And if I got to deal with that for 10 years, you have to get that in check. Hopefully he's not abusing the dog because I agree dogs can sense energy. So he could be kicking the dog, which he's not watching. But or the dog could just know that he don't fuck with him because he's annoying as hell.
Yeah.
Gotta check that. I think, and then again, as a single woman, that's where, you got to get on your Kevin Samuels high horse and like, is it the dog or is it the man? You kind of got to pick to some degree if your dog's annoying as fuck. And that doesn't mean get rid of the dog, but like, okay, if I want to keep this relationship, I'm going to have to do something. Take this dog to a trainer, make the dog act right. It can't just be me or the highway. Like, this is what I want. If you love me, you'll take my, because I'm not taking your annoying ass pets. I'm not taking your annoying ass kids. Get that shit in check so that we can live harmoniously.
And that's why, my friends, I love having her on. That's exactly why I love having her on. Because she's going to give it to you raw. I'm over here trying to, and make sure. Nah. She's like, yo, get your annoying ass dog and your annoying ass. No, fuck no. It makes sense. It makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, you're going to be spending a lot of time there. That shit's just
by yourself. You and your damn dog, so.
That's so true.
Pick and choose.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to close out the show. Miss Illy, I want to say thank you as always.
Sorry I was late. We're going to try this again maybe next week or the week after.
Yeah. For sure. I definitely got to do it more repeatedly, man. You got to get you back on here. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you. I hope you enjoyed this last hour with us. This has been the Hopeful Romantic M.A.N. podcast. I'm your host, Dropping Dimes, A.K.A the Hopeful Romantic, A.K.A the Feminist with Chauvinist tendencies. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Twain once said, the greatest day of your life is the two most important days of your life are the day you're born and the day you discover why. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you once again and thank Miss Illy for being here with me, for helping us walk in our why. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much and have a very, very, very good night. Oops, sorry. There you go.
Me queda 1% y lo usaré solo para decirte lo mucho que lo siento. Que si me ven con otra en una disco